Okay, so now we are at the phase where we're going to be cutting out a strap. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this piece out here, try to find a good edge where I can salvage the best pieces of my leather here. I can probably go up here this side because I got a nice straight edge I can work with. Keep things, yeah, this will work. And so I'm gonna use color pencil to do my outline and mark my holes. Okay, and then I'll take my hole punch, my leather punch, and punch the holes that we need. Okay, so I've got my pieces, I got the outline outlined, the strap outlined on the leather here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my metal straight edge and do it this way and start my cuts to release this from the main part. So sometimes you have to score it and go back a couple of times just to be safe. Okay, so for the most part we have this freed up. Got to clean up some areas, make sure it's precise. That's why you have a straight edge and a good utility blade. Okay. And then this is where, because we have rounded edges, this is where cutting the rounded edges with a pair of shears, leather shears, comes in handy. So you can do it with a utility blade, but it's a little easier when you have a pair of scissors that'll cut through the leather. So I can just cut through my outline carefully. Just like so. And on the other side, same thing. Just like that. Now oftentimes you can take a piece of sandpaper and kind of shore up the edges and things like that. But I think we'll be alright with this piece here. Okay, so now we will need to cut our holes. Alright, so the first hole we're gonna cut, that we're gonna punch, is for our snaps. Okay, so this is what the hole punch is for, and it's got different sizes on here. I'm going to use the next to largest size here, and this will fit on here, and all I gotta do is find the center and then use a little grip strength and punch the hole. Okay, do the same on the other side. Okay. And then do the same for the grommets. Those are the two pieces, two holes on the side. Okay, and then I'm going to wait for the snap that goes just under the drawstring, because I want to be sure that that's in the precise position. But I'm going to switch to a smaller hole for our strap slot, and this the circular holes will just be for stopping the slit, because all we're going to do is cut a slit. That's all we're going to do. And when you make a rounded, when you make the ends rounded, it keeps the material from splitting all the way through. Okay. So essentially we have a configuration like this with our holes all punched through, and I'm going to keep one hole unpunched until we're sure where the hole is going to go. Sometimes the punch doesn't go all the way through, so you have to double check. Alright, so next what we're going to do is I'm going to wet this a little bit. Normally I have a spray bottle, but this is just for embellishment. You don't have to do this, but I've got a gouger here that I can take this and gouge around the outside, just merely for decoration. Doesn't serve any more purpose than that. But this is the tool that this is for. But what happens with this leather, this type of leather, is once you get it wet, it gets kind of pliable. That's how you're able to do your stamping and your carving and really beautiful artwork within the leather itself. But you got to get it wet. So I'm just going to get it wet under the sink right quick. I don't want it too wet, but just wet enough. and then I'll be back and I'll gouge out this, and then we will dye it. Alright, so I'm going to be very careful here, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of gouge this through. And there you have it. It's just got a little groove in there, just merely for decoration, no real purpose there. So we're going to dye this. I like to start with the rough side, or this would be the flesh side. One side on this cowhide is rough or suede-ish, and that's the flesh side, and then the other side is smooth, and that would have been where the hair was. And so I'm going to need a dauber or two sometimes. Got my pro dye. Obviously I've got my cover protected, and then I'm gonna pull this off here. Oftentimes you might want to wear gloves. I'm not that concerned right now about that. I don't have anywhere to go, and I'm not a hand model. There you go. So I'm going to pour a little bit of this into this metal bin, because I don't want to spill it. And as you can see, it's easy to make a mess. So I can pick up some of this and just spread it on the leather. And this color that I'm using is golden brown. I just want to get the back side. This soaks up the most of the leather, or excuse me, yeah, of the dye. This side will be unseen for the most part, so I'm not worried about it being all pretty. It's the top side that we want to get a nice consistent look. And then get the edges. Just like so. And that's about it. So we'll let this dry a little bit. Let's see if I can funnel some of this back into the bottle without making too much of a mess. So next we're going to add some of this leather balm or liquid wax. This will add a nice sheen to it, and it's essentially a liquid, so I got a paper towel here. Just get the liquid on here, and I can kind of dab this, kind of spread it around. Put it on our dyed leather piece here, and then we'll let it air dry just briefly. It doesn't take very long. And then what you'll be able to do is you can start to buff it, and it'll add a little sheen to it. You might be able to see it on camera, but it also helps protect the leather as well. So there you go. It adds a nice little finish sheen to it, and there's a protectant there. So we know this is the top part. So this will be the part that folds over, and this will be the part that folds under. So we're basically going to have a piece that looks like this. Okay. So we're going to get that board set up to set the our eyelets, as well as to set our snaps. Before we set the eyelets and the snaps, I want to be able to cut our belt loop in. So I'm connecting the two smaller holes here, and I'm just eyeballing this to make this square, so up and down. They should, the cut or the slit should be right in the middle of each other. And then I want to be very careful. And I'm just gonna do a slit. Okay, I've got our slits in. Okay, so I have a slab of granite that I got from the leather store, and this is for your hardcore punching and leather carving work, because you need a really nice hard surface. It's not necessary. I mean, a good hard table will be just fine. Your floor should be just fine if you have a nice solid concrete floor or something like that. A solid table will be just fine. So what we're gonna do is, let's see, you're gonna figure out, so this is the top, so this part will overlap. So we want our dome piece. So here is the setter and the anvil. This is the anvil and this is the setter. Sorry. So here's the setter piece here, and here's the anvil. Okay, this tends to roll around a bit, so I'm gonna set this off to the side, but we'll need these pieces later. So I'm gonna pull out the pieces that I need, and for this piece, basically, as I introduced earlier, this dome piece will hopefully slide through, and I had chose the right size. If by chance this wasn't the right size, this is, you can sometimes, I have a chopstick here or even a whittle stick that, as long as the leather is somewhat wet or moist, you can widen the hole without messing up your leather. And so this, I have this tool set aside just in case, but this fit right in here just perfectly. So what I'm going to do is that goes right on that piece here. And then we have our anvil that's domed. It's concave in here. It's concave. And the domed piece sits in there like so. And then the setter sits into the hole or the center of the stem. And then we take our mallet and we punch and we hammer this down. Double check everything, because these can be kind of a pain to undo once you set them. They're not impossible, they can just be a pain. Okay? So you give it some good wax. Do it again, make sure that's in there. Too ginger with that. Make sure that's sitting there nice. There, that's in there. Okay, so that piece will snap into the bottom piece once we have that this is the female piece once we have the male piece set in. On the flesh side, the stem goes in because we want the male piece on the outside so that these two can meet. Okay? We want these two to meet. Alright? So the stem goes in the flesh side. Okay? So we'll set this on the opposite side. We'll put the male part down. Again, we don't need the anvil, so I can just take my setter and hammer this down. Give it another good whack. Okay. So now these two pieces should come together and snap. Okay, just like that, and then they will unsnap. Okay, so now we are at the stage where we need to attach this to our bag, and that's going to be kind of the tricky part. And I'll try my best with my poor cinematography to get this in, but I'll explain what I'm doing. Alright, so we want to be able to mark where our holes are going to be, and I've eyeballed this so I'm confident enough to punch my hole. I'll do that in a minute, but just to show you what we've done is I've taken the bag here and I've trifolded it on itself, hopefully evenly, or even as I can. And I press it down with the iron, and then this piece folds over and they pretty much meet in the middle. And I press this into place. Then I fold this up and press that into place to make the bag nice and compact. Okay. Now this is the front. I'm gonna flip it around to the back side. We want to attach our strap to the back side. The hole, I want the hole to go just underneath our drawstring casing. So I want to position this in the middle or the center of our bag, and so that the hole will go just below the casing. And then I'll take coloring pencil and mark the spaces. Okay, so I've got this set down here. I've got my rivet or my snap hole is going to set just below the casing of a string, and I'm going to use the coloring pencil to mark where I want that hole to begin, and then the two side grommet holes, make sure those are in the middle. I'm going to mark these with a coloring pencil. So we've got two places here, or excuse me, three places here where our holes will go. Okay, so essentially when we open the bag up, I'm going to create a hole here, two holes here, and then we'll be able to set everything together. So hopefully you can see I've got three holes here. This is where the snap will go, and usually you can take some sort of sharp implement and you're just going through one side. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go, and I just kind of want to take my cutting tool and start a hole, and then I want to take my tool, my chopstick tool, and I want to kind of force this opening a little wider without ripping it, because I want it as wide as possible as I can get it. Okay, so there's that. Got this through. Okay, so we've got our hole punched in our bag, and we want to align the male part in our strap here with the hole, and set that through. Sometimes with fabric it can be a little tough to work it, but we'll get it. Alright, so that's in there, and since it's just a single piece, we can align this so it's straight up and down, and we'll be able to adjust once we have this straight up and down like that. Okay, so there's that, and then now we can set our male piece right down there, like on there. Again, I'm not going through both layers, I'm just going through the single layer of the back. And then I want to take my setter and tack it down. Alright, so this will go and it'll snap down onto this piece when not in use, and it'll come back up, okay? But it could swivel a bit. So we're going to use our eyelets to tack down the other two holes here that we marked. Alright, so be careful not to cut yourself. And then what I can do then is take my chopstick or my awl tool and make the holes bigger to accommodate the eyelets. Okay, just like so. So we then take an eyelet and we take one, put it through the leather, we find the hole in the fabric, and then we work it onto the fabric. That can be a bit of a chore, can be a bit of a hassle, and sometimes you gotta use your tool again to open up the hole again. But eventually you'll get it. Okay, and I could take the same setter, so right now I've got it through. You may not be able to see it, but this is showing around the fabric. I can take the same setter and then punch this down. That will hold, this will officially attach the bag to the strap. And that's what that starts to look like up close. Okay, just going to do the other side. Okay, so officially our bag is attached to our leather strap. So for the most part we are essentially finished. Alright, so essentially we have our bag all done. Alright, so how it works out is we fold this on itself, and then we fold this on itself. The drawstrings crisscross. This will fold up, the top will fold down, and the bottom will fold up, and these two will snap together. Just like so. And there you have it. And then the slots in the back will fit, is where you can slide your belt. Depending on what size of belt you're going to use, your slots will be longer or whatever, whichever, right? So this is the configuration in the back, and this is how it sits in the front. And then you can kind of shape and conform it while it's still a little wet from the dye. The dye isn't sticking anywhere, it's not bleeding anywhere. But this is how it will all fit together. And then undo it, unfold everything, and then re-snap this to the inside while you're foraging. And then you put everything in your bag, cinch it up so you don't lose anything, or uncinch it, unsnap it, refold it back up. So there you go. I hope that was helpful, useful. This is my version. Lots of variations, lots of ways you could do this. Different sizes. I could embellish the leather, do all kinds of cool stuff with the leather. If you do not wax your fabric or your denim or canvas, then you could make this so it's detachable. So what happens is that this, now you can lace this in with just these eyelets, that you can use some cordage to lace this together, and then unlace it, and then you can put this through put your bag through the washing machine. So that's one variation that might be useful if you can't or don't want to wax your forager bag. So that's essentially it. Hope this was useful, and there you go. Okay, so here's the forager bag attached to a belt that I've got on me, and again, you just kind of unsnap it. The bag comes open. You would be able to take the top flap here and snap it to a snap that's already on the inside. If we get that right, get that just right here. Sometimes the snaps have to wear in a bit, but now you've got your bag to where you can collect an acorns or walnuts or rocks, shells, mushrooms, kindling, whatever. And then of course you can cinch it up and go on about your merry way. So this is my version of it. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can make a video on how to do this. I think it turned out pretty nifty. And yeah, so there you go.